Hello, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. This is Defub21, and surprise, surprise, as always, it's another new trailer. This one is the official launch trailer for Metal Gear Solid 5, which I believe at the time of recording is it's a few days, about a week away from release. It's out, I think, on the 1st of September, and it's now, about a week away from release, or thereabouts. We're at this point. There have been some rumors being reported. Things have been reported online about there being what's the word for it? Free to play elements, as in, or should I say, pay to play elements to the multiplayer in the game. Apparently, you have to spend money if you want access to at least one of the multiplayer modes. Although that's only at this point rumors. There are early reviews out that have been very positive, but the game's not out for a week, so we won't know for certain until the game goes live as to whether that's true, absolutely true or not. We'll have to see. But anyway, let's have a look at this trailer and then I will tell you what I think of it. Toodaloo.
Peggy 18.
Well, for those who may have forgotten, this is Defub21, and under other circumstances, I might have a very, very different viewpoint, or or gut reaction to this trailer. But considering what's been going on in terms of the whole controversy with Kojima being effectively, fired and turned into a temporary contractor just so he can finish the game, the fact that his name has been taken off, certainly all the PR materials taken off the box that the game will be shipping in both for console and PC in its physical retail form. The fact that we've the revelations that have come to the fore about what working conditions in Konami are like. In other words, certainly by Western standards, bloody horrible. This trailer, taking all that into account, is really kind of weird, because it seems a major kind of objective of Konami at Konami headquarters has been, among the executives, the leadership of the company, has been to effectively to dehumanize the workforce as much as possible on one side, and turn them all into metaphorical cogs in the machine where no one individual is special or important and completely interchangeable and expendable. It's kind of a nightmare environment for any kind of creative person, and it's no surprise that Konami has lost so much of its key creative talent over the last couple of years, of course, with Kojima really being the last big name to have left the company. Whether it was willingly or unwillingly, we probably will never know. Although, considering what we've now heard about how people are treated in Konami, frankly, I think his only real reason for staying there was attachment to the things he had created, particularly in the Metal Gear Solid, or as it was originally on kind of Metal Gear franchise. And the reason why the trailer is really weird is that, taking into account kind of Konami's, Konami's leadership and their need to kind of de-emphasize the importance of any one individual and to kind of commoditize as much of the workforce as possible to make them as expendable as possible. And considering the huge amount of bad PR they've gotten for over a year now in terms of how Kojima's been... I think it's over a year now. I don't know when it was originally announced that Kojima had been fired. It was maybe earlier on this year. But the point is that they've had an awful lot of very bad PR for the last kind of... at least certainly this year, since the beginning of this year. And it's just gotten worse and worse and worse. Their reputation has only gotten worse and worse and worse, and they've been supposedly trying to kind of de-emphasize Kojima and his importance to the franchise. And yet, the last trailer that we get before the game comes out, I assume it's the last trailer, in other words, the official launch trailer. I thought the last trailer we'd get directed by Kojima was the one that came out for E3. I said so at the time. You can find the video for that E3 trailer and my views on it on my channel. It's basic, and this is why I think it's really, really weird, considering that, the Konami seems to want to de-emphasize Kojima's importance to a huge degree. Not only is this trailer clearly, as it says there, directed and edited by Mr. Kojima himself, but for all intents and purposes, the entire trailer, I mean, you could interpret it as kind of a best of, and kind of the story to date, as it were, of the Metal Gear Solid games. But what it effectively really is a greatest hits of Hideo Kojima. It starts with Solid Snake in his kind of modern form in the very first scene, and then they kind of transition him to his kind of original kind of retro. I think it was PlayStation 1 appearance on the first kind of Metal Gear Solid games. There were Metal Gear games before the first Metal Gear Solid, but that was the one that kind of started the modern moniker. And while Kojima was responsible for the previous Metal Gear games, as far as I'm aware, all of them, and he originated the franchise and the IP, it's the one on the original Metal Gear Solid on PlayStation, was on PlayStation 1, it was on PlayStation 1. That's the game that sent the franchise kind of supernova. And he's been directly and intimately involved in every game since, and that's what the trailer is made up of. So there's no... rather it's bizarre because again the company's leadership seems to view him as a problem, as a liability, cost too much money. We can't have this individual, charismatic individual sticking his head above the herd, as it were, making himself not expendable and so on, as we want rid of him and get rid of him and so on. We take his name off the box. And yet they've released this launch trailer directed and edited by him, and it's just one sequence after another. As I said, it's a Hideo Kojima, greatest hits video. And it only reinforces kind of Kojima's brand and, Metal Gear's, attachment to him. Now you could say, well, in the defense of, well, you can't really say in the defense of Konami, but certainly in from the standpoint of, you could say that, well, he's been, he's literally been, involved in the director in every one of the games, certainly since it went big on the original PlayStation, Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2, Metal Gear Solid 3, the games on the PSP, 4 on PlayStation 3, and now 5. But it's just because it's, yes, it's kind of a best of greatest hits Metal Gear trailer, but it's also by definition and kind of greatest hits a Hideo Kojima trailer. And yet they seem to have spent the last, 6 months to a year or more. I can't remember off the top of my head when he was originally, demoted to a contractor. But they've basically spent, it seems to be a major kind of corporate objective has been to get rid of him and de-emphasize his importance to the franchise. And yet here they are with this trailer. And it's really, if you know anything about the series, it's just, Hideo Kojima, he created this game, was a huge hit, made the franchise go big. Oh, he's responsible for number 2. Oh, he's responsible for number 3, which a lot of people consider to be the best all-round game in the series, and I'd be one of those. And then the whole thing with 4 and now 5, and it's just, it's really, really odd. I mean, I don't know, maybe the management in Japan are clueless, or maybe this trailer was just put together for the kind of the Western audience by Kojima-san and given over to the American or the European Kojima people, and they just may have probably realized what it was, but just put it out anyway because they're not that bothered. But in terms of it's just. Yeah, it really is. I mean, I can't see, considering how Konami's leadership, it's at the very least, it's an extremely mixed message, because they've spent the last kind of, certainly this year, trying to de-emphasize his importance, and yet the final piece of PR, or big piece of PR we have before the game comes out, is a trailer directed and edited by Hideo Kojima, and it's basically, remember when I did this, remember when I did this, remember when I did this, remember when I did that, over and over and over again. So it is in that respect, kind of in the context of what's been going on and what's been reported on by the gaming press, it is frankly quite bizarre. In terms of the trailer itself, again, it goes through kind of a major elements of the kind of stories of all the games. Might even be considered a bit spoilerish if you haven't played the previous ones. The one thing I would say about it, maybe necessarily a bit of criticism, is at the end of the trailer with the big Metal Gear appearing at the end. The trailer goes on to a certain point. It's a long trailer at 5 minutes and a bit for a trailer that's not really a gameplay walkthrough trailer or anything like that. It's just a standard trailer. Is that you've got, it gets to this kind of emotional peak, and then rather than it ending, if you can hear that dog, I apologize, nothing I can do about it. But taking into account, you've got the trailer, very cinematic, comes to an end, and you think it's coming to an end, it comes to kind of an emotional peak, and then suddenly you've got, big giant Metal Gear, and then as it's walking along, suddenly it's interrupted by, a statement on a screen, then more of it, then another statement, then another, and then it finally comes to an end. And I'm not really sure if that kind of interferes with the flow of the trailer, and I'm not sure if that was necessarily very advised. Metal Gear, but they're in all the games, so giant big robot, maybe that should have had its own separate trailer, I don't know. But it causes maybe the end of the trailer to be a bit too long, and it kind of interferes with the flow of it. But yeah, it's a very, very bizarre trailer. I mean, I assume, if the reports are true, the game cost 80 to 100 million to make, excluding distribution and advertising. that this would be, particularly by modern Japanese game industry standards, a stupendously expensive game to make, certainly by their standards. Western industry standards, not so much, but certainly for the Japanese one. And yet, you know, one would imagine the management of the company would have looked over this trailer, and the fact that I assume, and the fact that they didn't cop to this, you know, it was a bit, it's all a bit weird. But yeah, considering, you know, it's basically a Hideo Kojima greatest hits trailer, and considering what the company's been trying to do vis-a-vis him, in other words, make him irrelevant and or invisible, certainly since the beginning of this year at the very least. Can't remember when the controversy relating to him specifically cooked off, but all cancelling PT and all the rest is probably where it started. Although again, I can't remember, but my mind is too foggy at the moment. But yeah, it's again, taking into account what's gone on certainly this year, it's a very odd trailer. Very odd. But it will only reinforce, you know, among the consumer and in fans' eyes, Kojima's importance to the series, and, you know, puts an even bigger question, or helps put a, you know, as big a question mark as possible over, you know, the franchise's long-term future, particularly with Kojima gone and literally all the major creative leads that were known to the public at the company gone. And considering those pachinko games they've started making, it's all gotten a bit ridiculous. Anyway, this is Defub21. If you liked this video, please take a look at my channel. If you like what you see there, please subscribe and like this video. Toodaloo.